Good afternoon, this is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. We are starting with the presentation of sociological research among IDPs in the city of Odesa. In the announcement, we mentioned Odesa region, but actually we will be discussing the situation in the city of Odesa. And I would like to give floor to Tamara Mosiychuk, associate professor in the Odesa National University, and also Oleh Mykhailyk, chairman of the board of Plich-o-plich Charitable Foundation. Oleh, the floor is yours. I think that you will start, and then we can give floor to Ms. Mosiychuk to share detailed results. Good afternoon. I'll start. Because I would like to tell you about the massive work that has been done. It was conducted by Plich-o-plich Charitable Foundation. And that work and that survey was conducted by students, and this is unique for the city of Odesa, for the Odesa region, and I'm not sure that such massive sociological research has been in Ukraine before. Our foundation supported that research. We published information about this research, the answers in our Telegram channel, and we received almost 1,500 field questionnaires. And we can say that this is rather massive research, and we are happy that we were able to conduct this and that we received answers from the most active citizens. These are people who are now residing in the city of Odesa, at least most of them. But these are not only people evacuated from Kherson Oblast. There are also people from Donetsk, Luhansk Oblast, and other regions of Ukraine. We will not stop our work here, and now I would like to give floor to Ms. Mosiychuk to share the results. Thank you. You can present the results of your research, at least intermediate results. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I'm happy to present the results of our work. It was done as the part of the practice of students' bachelor and master's degrees. This is a common practice for all faculties, and we represent the Faculty of International Relations, Political Science, and Sociology. For almost 30 years, we had different name. It was called as the Sociological Department, but now we have widened the scale of our work and research, and also the amount of our tasks. And as a result of students' practice, they had to apply their knowledge and skills received during 4 years of studies. And we had to find a base for this sociological, it's not even a research, but a survey. Because now, after the 24th of February of 2022, after the full-scale invasion started, it is very difficult to conduct sociological survey, especially quantity research, because it is very difficult now to get access to respondents. People are reluctant to provide information, and it is very difficult to get in touch with the respondents to get some information from them. Sociological research is there, a lot of quantity research, but our cooperation with Plich-o-plich Foundation allowed us to conduct this survey. And what is very important for us, it was for our students to practice their knowledge and skills. These are students with bachelor's degrees and those who still continue studies to get master's degrees. So we united in this practice three forms of students: bachelor's, the master's program, and we would like to thank this charitable foundation for this possibility. And now let's get to our research. We call it a pilot research survey. IDPs, internally displaced persons, those who now staying in the Odesa region. Who are these people? Where do they come from? What was their occupation before internal displacement? And what actually made them to leave their homes? What difficulties, what assistance they need? Who provides aid to these people? How? Is there any support for these people? What are the needs of these people when it comes to services? So we had a lot of questions. And students developed tools using the base of people provided by Plich-o-plich Charitable Foundation, chaired by Oleh Mykhailyk. And that's how this survey became possible. That was online survey because the education format was online back then, and it was very difficult to get access to respondents. There were different situations that perhaps we can discuss later. We created a questionnaire with 51 questions. Starting with sex, age, and some other questions. So, in our presentation, we have men and women, only 4.9 men and 95% of women. The next is for age segregation. And you can see the percentage of people answering to different questions. And we can see the age, 49 years, 68%. As for elderly pensioners, it's around 10%. So I would like to emphasize that this is the most active people of this age. That's why it was very important for us to identify the area of employment of people participating in our survey. We held 12 alternatives, and the biggest percentage is 17%. The specialists with higher education, teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers. So this was for employment, 17.8%. These are specialists with higher education, 11.5% lower-level employees. Housewives, 12%. Qualified skilled workers, 6.4%. And also pensioners who worked, 3.8%, and unemployed, 5.6%. The next slide. Are you working now? That was one of the first questions for people. And we found out that at the moment of the research, almost 52% of people were unemployed, and those with unemployment, there were 16.6% of people. Some people were looking for a job, and others had small children. The next question: how many children do you have to support? For no minor children, 77.8%, one child, 35%, two children, around 27%. So most our respondents are women with children of school age, and unfortunately most of them are unemployed, and this is a big problem now that we should respond right away. How it was possible to leave unsafe territories. So let's get to the next slide about difficulties. What difficulties do you have when moving and staying in another city or settlement? The biggest challenge for IDPs now is lack of free or cheap housing. Free or cheap. So we said free and in the brackets cheap, because for people to be able to find this housing and to pay for it. The next question: mental problems is fears and loneliness. And some other problems. This is the high cost for moving and changing the place of residence. The next question. Let's get further, because we added some internal questions. And let's get to the main questions. Let's get to the next slide. Did you receive financial support? 16% of people said yes, and 39% said no. The next question was about who provided the biggest support. When it comes to help. 1,196 people said that they received no support when it comes to displacement, so that they had to transport alone. The level of support from central authorities: 53%, almost 54%. Said that they get assistance from the local central government. So this is about assistance from local and central authorities. 53% said that they received no support. And this is a very important piece of information showing the real support or trust of people to the government, to authorities. So you can see that the numbers are not that good. Say that people found themselves in the situations when they were in need of assistance from the local central governmental bodies. Who provided the biggest support? And our respondents said that 91% that charitable organizations provided more help. We had one more interesting questions because they are IDPs. The question was, did they want to go abroad? That was the previous slide about traveling abroad. So that your foundation provides free support to evacuate abroad. And actually, most people responded that they did not want to leave, at least those people who participated in this survey. And there is one more slide which is very important. Most people who participated in the survey are now planning to return home as soon as it is safe there. And this is very important and interesting information. Plich-o-plich Foundation helps to evacuate abroad for free. And how people answers don't want the 2.7. Those who want 2.5 have doubts about leaving, 14%, but 67.7%, almost 68%, say that they don't want to live abroad. So despite the fact that they now have an opportunity to live abroad, people, they don't want to go abroad, at least those who participated in this survey. But when it comes to the satisfaction with their housing, 23% say that the conditions are good, 56% say that they can bear with it, and as for unfavorable conditions, and the amount of people is less. This is when it comes to satisfaction with your current accommodation. What conditions were provided, and who assisted to find home? Yes, they helped good conditions, 4.9%. No, they received no support, and this number of respondents, 72.6%. And what is about 16.7%? We can see the description of this point. There is a place to live, but the living conditions are not suitable. This is 6.7%. The next slide, please, and we'll get to the net one. Have you participated in combat operations? We had such questions. And no, because most of the respondents are women with children. But do you have military in your? And actually, there was the question about the services needed after post-settlement, and free food is actually the most popular answer. And then the second place, the first one is free food and non-food items, 63.4%. The second place is the medical assistance, 33%, and the compensation for the destroyed houses, 33%. The issues with repair of houses, 21%. This is the fifth place. And the employment in line with the previous occupation, that is 23%. And I would like to say that after this press conference, we will send the results of this survey to make it easier to work with these numbers. And unfortunately, we cannot cover all numbers during our briefing. Yes, there were a lot of questions, and we had got a lot of answers, but the slides that you can see now are very important. And that was the question about the harm caused by the war. And we cast in IDPs about the types of activities that was damaged the most. And they say that economy in general. What type of activity, in your opinion, suffered the most damage during the war? Economy in general includes all areas of the economy. This of course, agrarian sector was mentioned 18.9%, industry, chemical, metallurgical, etc., and 6.3%. This is science and education. Tamara, I would like to ask you to find an interesting question about education. Despite the fact that according different data from 5 to 10 million of internally displaced persons, but most people who participated in this survey managed to continue their education. And there is a slide proving that we were prepared by the COVID pandemic, and people were able to continue their education online. And I like that slide a lot. And this is slide 30. We will find the slide needed right away. Do the children have to change the educational institutions? Yes, 65.4%, no, almost 37%. Is it difficult for your was it difficult for your child to adapt to the new educational institutions? So let's do it differently. We will send this information to journalists, and I have several questions to you. 95% of women about this sample. Are there no IDPs, like male IDPs, or are they reluctant to answer the questions? How will you explain the sample of 95% of women? And when did you conduct that survey? The survey was conducted in the mid of April till mid-May this year. Our sample and that was based on the fact that these were the people who had lived for 1 year already in the city of Odesa. We did not ask those women about their men. And then we noticed that their pensioners, male pensioners among IDPs. And how do you explain this? We explain this that men stayed at home, or they serve in the armed forces of Ukraine, or they perform their male function. And of course, women, they are now in shelters and are protected by charitable foundations and state institutions. I also have one more question. 1,500 respondents. This is quite a lot in the for the sociological research, and when it comes especially the city. But I have a question about error, and I understand that that was no scientific sample. Yes, it was difficult to do that, but taking into consideration your experiences of sociologists, are the results representative? And in this case, we do not just speak about a fully scientific approach. We do not say that this is a research, we say that this is a survey. And that's what we like to emphasize here. So for people not to have question about percentage when it comes to 5-7%, because we had different situations when during one day people were ready to answer questions, but then they blocked their phones, and it was impossible for our students to use the channels, and they had to change them, and then we had to look for respondents, for example, using their emails. So we used different approaches and methods. This is a pilot survey, because we need to test our tools. To conduct such a service to identify people's needs, we need to understand and we need to examine this category of people, because this is a new category for our country. I mean IDPs. I know that we had some IDPs in 2014, and during the Chernobyl disaster, these were people who had to move from that dangerous zone. But now we have a new category of internally displaced people. And why is it so important? Because social exclusion, this is a very important notion for sociology. This is the exclusion of big mass of people from social relations. And now we are not talking people who went abroad. We call them refugees. And the targeted group for our survey was IDPs. And these people are excluded for their place of residence. They're excluded from their homes with their traditionals, culture, and their language, and also people whom they know. People are excluded from labor, from employment, or from their profession. And when people are displaced in other places, they're looking for some new jobs, and we have 51% of unemployed people. 21% want to be employed in their profession, and it is very difficult for them to find jobs. Then we should also remember about, is it possible to send their children to kindergartens? Because we live in risky times, in dangerous times. There are also exclusions from political life, from cultural life. There is a breakdown of family ties. And social exclusion will have increased effect on the relations and impact on the relations of our society. And why is it important for us to have such survey? Because after this pilot research, we will ask questions how we can support these people, because now we have a sample of people, we know their needs, we know their challenges after the first survey. And as for emotional state of our respondents during the war, what emotions do they experience the most? And the first place say that this is fear, 70% fear, tension, 75% people are tired, 62%, and only 1.4% people say that they feel more or less calm. But of course, this is hope and trust 45%. This is like half of our respondents. But coming back to my question, is this survey reflects the trends in the group, in your sample? Yes, for sure. Yes, it reflects trends and to most extent the challenges that people are facing at the moment. This is the online survey. The respondent knew that that was anonymous research, and they were more open in answering these questions without any fear. Thank you. Thank you very much for presentation. And Oleh, would you like to add something? You still have a minute. Yes, I would like to talk about trends, and perhaps it is not 100% representative, but it shows the biggest needs of IDPs and their biggest challenges. So we're talking about needs and challenges, and we need to respond to this somehow. Thank you. We will stop here, and if journalists are interested in this topic, we will provide contacts of our today's guests. And it's just that we're limited in time, but we were happy to present this research here, and we will also share information in our Telegram channel. And please stay tuned at noon. At 1 p.m., we will have the next briefing dedicated to violations of human rights in the Ukrainian territories occupied by Russian army.